We also aim to contribute to the acceleration of sustainable cooking practices with the end goal of improving health outcomes and mitigating environmental impact. For today's discussion, we'll be discussing on addressing the addressing environmental degradation through sustainable cooking solutions. We are currently on the 8th episode. From the first episode, we discussed about policy. We moved on to talk about finance and investment. Last episode, the 7th episode, we're looking at the health impact of cooking with clean cooking solutions in comparison with the traditional cooking solutions. For the purpose of today, would be having our discussions, the presentation and the panel session to also over around how we can address environmental degradation through sustainable cooking solutions. Next slide, please. So for today's episode, this is the agenda and the order of activities. The welcome address has already been taken by me and would proceed to introduce the panelists. Then we'll have the presentation from 12:15 p.m. to 12:50 p.m. We would also have poll questions. After the poll questions, we'd have the panel discussion. Then the floor will be open for questions and of course responses to the questions. If you have contributions or inputs to make, that would be the time for you to unmute and go ahead, or you can drop it in the chat box and then we'll move to the closing formalities. For today's webinar, we have this amazing and beautiful lady that will be steering the course of this conversation as the moderator. She is Kentin Von Akpan. She is a clean energy advocate and is committed to improving public health and environmental safety across Africa. At Sovereign Energy, she contributes to projects that make electric cooking accessible and affordable. She brings a thoughtful, practical approach to clean energy conversations with the aim to bridge policy, innovation, and grassroots solutions. She will not be doing this alone. Of course, we have a very rich pool of panelists and presenters that we've carefully selected to share their contributions, their inputs, their insights, as well as their experience in the clean cooking space with regards to this topic, the topic for today. And we have Moni Adams, a climate educator and community organizer. He also doubles as co-founder of Climb Me. He's a storyteller and a community organizer dedicated to environmental sustainability and youth empowerment. He is the founder of Climb With Me, a grassroots movement mobilizing citizens and pushing for climate policy reform. He equally serves on the Earthshot Prize Research Panel as a global youth ambassador for Dear World and actively contributes to several climate and advocacy networks, including NPAP, Revamp Rev, Y Labs Global, and the Leading Change Network. He co-founded Tabama, a free school in Kano State, offering education and environmental training to out-of-school children. He has also empowered over 4,000 young people and reached more than 30,000 others. His advocacy work extends across platforms like Flutterwave, Asoka Africa, Lagos Model UN, and Arise News. So we'll go on to introduce the next panelist, which is Nelson Byanyima. He serves as the communications officer for the Uganda National Alliance on Clean Cooking. He is an environmental communication specialist and he leads nationwide campaigns to promote the adoption of clean cooking solutions. He also served as communications coordinator at Green Watch Uganda and a board director at the Cook Stove Project. Nelson supports strategic outreach for initiatives that have successfully constructed over 31,000 clean cook stoves across Uganda. His past work includes lab and field performance testing of cook stoves for energy efficiency and emissions, as well as leading tree planting projects, plastic pollution campaigns, and wasteland conservation efforts. He is also the founder of Green Lens International. Our next panelist is Amadi Gambi, who is the board director, Clean Cooking Sub-Sahara Africa. He is a renewable energy engineer based in Bamako, Mali, and has expertise in mechanical engineering and sustainable development. He has led multi-million-dollar projects across Africa. He is former country manager at Covaltech, Morocco, and the president of the African Railway Fund, Congo. Amadi combines strategic leadership with technical skills in AutoCAD, PVCs, and more. He is passionate about expanding clean energy solutions across the continent. Lastly, we have Charity. Next slide, please. We have Charity Aban, a public health practitioner who is also passionate about and also has experience in gender development, sexual and reproductive health, and women economic empowerment. She has worked with organizations like UN, FPA, and AIDS Healthcare Foundation across Nigeria. She combines clinical and community health expertise, and she's also a fellow of Yale, Aspire Leaders, Harvard. She currently serves with Gender and Development Action in Cross River State, where she leads youth engagement for sustainable development. She is recognized for her collaborative nature, passion for learning, and dedication to social impact. So without further ado, we'd like our panelists and presenters to put on their videos and say hi before we start. And just put on your camera. Let's see the face behind this amazing profile. Can see Nelson. I'm yet to see Charity. I don't know if she has joined. She has.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Charity. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, at this point, I would hand over to my colleague, Kentim Fon, who is the moderator for today's episode. Over to you, Kentim Fon.
All right, thank you so much, Wim, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, depending on where you're joining in from. My name once again is Kentim Fon Akpan, and I'll serve as the moderator for the 8th edition of the 51st Park African Clean Cooking webinar. Thank you to our audience for finding time out of your busy schedule to join in and do this with us. Thank you. Okay, so without wasting much of our time, we will go directly to the presentation. And I think we have 3 presenters today, starting from Charity. Then we move over to Mr. Nelson and then to Mr. Hamadi. Mr. Hamadi, please, are you online? Okay.
Not yet.
I think
he hasn't joined yet.
Okay, maybe he has some technical issues. While we are waiting for Mr. Hamadi to join in, Charity, please, if it's okay by you, you wouldn't mind taking the floor for the presentation. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon once again, and thank you so much for having me on this conversation. Please, I'd like to plead that I had to step out from the training, so please, I would not be staying till the very end of this conversation. So after my presentation, I would just take few questions so that I can run back to the physical training.
Okay, that's fine by us. You go ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So will you be projecting for me?
No
I sent
problem.
in. Okay.
Yeah, I saw it. Mm. Okay,
You've
Charity,
been able
it's
to share from your end, Kensington. I should go ahead to share.
yes. No, I'm sharing from my end. It's not visible?
No, this isn't mine.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well,
I
please,
sent.
Charity, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good afternoon once again. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you have. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
you.
Okay, so I'd like to start by saying that it's really a huge pleasure to have this conversation because it's really, really a timely one, especially as we recently commemorated the Earth Day, which was last month, April 22nd, 2025. And emphasis has been on our power, our planet, highlighting the importance of community involvement in protecting the environment. So this goes a long way to encourage individuals and communities to take action and be an active part of ongoing efforts in conservation. So this topic on addressing environmental degradation through sustainable cooking solutions is a very, very welcome idea. And I'd like to appreciate the team at Tuvero Energy and every partner that has contributed to make this possible. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so addressing environmental degradation through sustainable cooking solution is what we are looking at. And the key terms here are environmental degradation as well as sustainable cooking solution. So when we talk about environmental degradation, we're simply referring to the deterioration of the natural environment due to various factors often caused by human activities. And when this happens, it leads to the pollution of air and water. We also have deforestation, soil erosion, and loss of biodiversity and climate change. So sustainable cooking solutions, we are referring to methods that minimize environmental impact while promoting healthier and more efficient food preparation. And what does this involve? It involves using energy efficient appliances such as induction cooktops, electric pressure cookers, improved biomass cookstoves, solar cookers, thermal cookers, and all of that. And the advantage of using these kinds of appliances is that it conserves energy and it also increases pressure while conserving energy. So it also involves choosing locally sourced and organic ingredients, such as organic vegetable from your local farms or home gardens. And the benefit of this is that it reduces carbon footprints from transportation and avoids synthetic pesticides or fertilizers.
Should I move to the next slide?
Yes. Okay. Next slide, please. This is the second slide. Okay, so environmental impacts of traditional cooking. As we can see here, traditional cooking does a lot of harm to the environment, and part of it includes deforestation, which is this widespread use of firewood and charcoal, leading to massive tree loss. So when people still stick to traditional cooking methods, there is a lot of demand on the natural habitat, and because of this, trees are cut down. And when the demand of tree use outweighs the tree planting exercise, you can find that it causes a lot of problem to the environment. And also in the course of using trees, there's a lot of pollutants, air pollution. Please go back to. Thank you. So there's a lot of carbon monoxide being released into the environment. I'm sure you can see the image here of a woman who is engaged in traditional cooking method. We can see that she's using the firewood, and there's a lot of smoke coming out. All of this causes harm to the environment. We also talk of air pollution. We can see what the smoke is doing. There's a decrease in air quality, external air quality, and which also contributes to respiratory diseases, which we are going to look out in the course of our conversation. Let's look at the health risks. There's also exposure to harmful pollutants, which involves respiratory infections that we've already talked about. There is the issue of obstructive pulmonary disease. There's also acute respiratory infections, which is very common in under 5 children. You find that such children are usually with their mothers when this cooking method is being carried out, because they spend more time with their mothers. When this method of cooking is ongoing, so they usually come down with this kind of infection. And there's also lung cancer, even among non-smokers, so including asthma. So imagine somebody who is already suffering from asthma, being in an environment that is polluted with smoke. That can be a trigger for crisis. Next slide, please. Next slide.
It's coming up.
Okay. I can see that. Do I proceed?
Sorry about that. I don't know if it's from my keypad. Actually,
can I proceed?
Please, you can.
Yeah, you can proceed, Charity, please.
Okay, so next I would like us to look at the key drivers of environmental degradation. There's emission from biomass fuel, which comprises of carbon dioxide, that's the CO2, methane, which is the main component of the natural gas, which is used in homes for heating and cooking. And there's also black carbon, which was climate change. Also, another key driver here is unsustainable energy consumption. When there is heavy reliance on non-renewable cooking fuels, by non-renewable cooking fuel, we are referring to the charcoal. And we know that when you're using charcoal, it requires high energy consumption, and the result is that it's going to release carbon monoxide rather, into the environment, and also it feeds on the forest. So we still have to deal with the issue of deforestation here, and air pollution. There's also kerosene, which is refined crude oil, which emits harmful fumes associated with burns, respiratory problems, and also fire hazard. There's also the liquefied petroleum gas, as well as coal. And lastly, here there's ecosystem damage. I wish we can have that slide up so that you can see how the emission flow chart looks like. But let's proceed. So ecosystem damage, using this method causes loss of biodiversity due to unsustainable cooking practices. By biodiversity, we're talking about a distortion in the natural environment, the forest reserve, the plants, and when the environment is distorted, all of those natural species that were there, we begin to find them going extinct. So these are some of the consequences that happens.
Is this your current slide, or I should move forward?
The next slide will be benefits of clean cooking solution.
Yes, I am on that slide, benefits of clean cooking solution.
I can see it, I can see it. So we have about 3 here. Number 1 is reduced emission, and we say that it lowers carbon footprint compared to biomass burning. So I don't know if we can see the image here of a woman who's using an energy conserving gas cooker. Can we see that, please? If you can see it, you can drop a chat. And then I also have the traditional cooking method here. So maybe you can tell me what the difference is. When you look at these 2 images, what comes to mind? What can you deduce from it? I'm looking at the chat. I'm not seeing any messages. I hope we're still together. So I am asking, we're talking about benefits of clean cooking solution. Let's say I did not have this text here. When you compare these 2 images, what can you see? What differentiates one from the other? That's simply what we are saying. So there is reduced emission. Here we have lower carbon footprint compared to biomass burning, and also improved health outcome. There is less indoor air pollution and fewer respiratory illnesses. So when people adopt clean cooking method, we will have less issue of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We'll have less of acute respiratory infection, the issue of asthma, especially in young children, will be less, and there will also be less issues of lung cancer. We're also able to conserve our environment, so biodiversity conservation, reduce pressure on forests and ecosystem, because people have realized that the environment needs to be protected. People have found out that there is a better way of doing things. There is a better way of cooking or achieving your cooking skills. So we no longer rely on the forest products like firewood or dung, which some burn to use for cooking. So these are the benefits that we can get from accepting clean cooking solutions. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we have types of sustainable cooking solution. The first one here is the clean cook stoves. So it is an efficient stove that reduces fuel consumption. There's also the liquefied petroleum gas and electric stoves, which gives us cleaner alternatives to wood and charcoal. Improved biomass stoves, less smoke and better fuel efficiency. And lastly, there's renewable energy options, solar power cooking devices.
Charity, are you there? Hello, Charity, can you hear us? Okay, it's like network throughout. Ah, sad. Okay, that was an interesting presentation by Charity, but unfortunately, I think a network didn't allow her to finish. So while we are waiting for her to rejoin, can we, Barrister Owen, please, would you mind stop sharing our slide so that we'll just go over to Mr. Nelson, please? You have the floor. You go ahead with your own presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our host or moderator, Katie Fon. And I hope I got it right. I'm going to try
you
to
tried.
see if I can. Okay, I think I can't share, but probably someone can help me share. So as we get the slides on the screen, my name is Nelson Byanyima. Oh, let me try to switch on my video.
1 second, please. Barrister Owen, please, can you help us with the sharing?
Yeah. Is my video on now? I don't see myself. Yeah. Okay. So as she's sharing the slides, my name is Nelson Byanyima, and I'm based in Kampala, Uganda, East Africa. And I work with an organization called Green Lens, the one that I founded in 2021 to help create visual content or to raise awareness on environmental conservation, clean energy, and climate action. I'm a very passionate advocate for clean cooking, and I work with the Uganda National Alliance on Clean Cooking, a body that brings together different stakeholders in Uganda to promote clean cooking. And I also work with an organization that advocates for environmental rights called Greenwatch. And I'm happy to be here. And I want to thank Tovero for bringing me on board to share with you this and also bring me as a partner. So finally, Green Lens is an official partner for the 54 Sparks of clean cooking. So I'm glad to be here. Without wasting time, let me start. And before I start, I would like to thank Charity for her beautiful and engaging and informative presentation. My presentation is not so different from hers, but I will just bring in a few things that would give us a context that is globally and also looking at sub-Saharan Africa as well as Uganda. So I think the intros have been done already. So the issue at hand is addressing environmental degradation through sustainable cooking solutions. And I would like us to start by defining or looking at what environmental degradation means. Like Charity has already said, It is mainly about how our environment, our natural environment is normally depleted and deteriorated. And this happens in terms of air quality, water quality, soil quality. And at the end, we find that our ecosystems are destroyed. And this always results in loss of biodiversity. And as we are talking about clean cooking, as we are talking cooking, you have to, something that has to come into your mind. Because as you know, most people, especially in Uganda and Africa at large, depend a lot on biomass for cooking. And that includes wood, charcoal, dung, agricultural residues, and many other sources, but mostly coming from biomass, but without also forgetting kerosene. And then we also see that doing this affects us in a way that we overharvest wood for fuel, and this leads to forest loss, which ends up damaging our ecosystem. We shouldn't forget that as we cook, we normally use inefficient cooking technologies or methods that normally include the traditional three-stone fire, which is very common in Uganda. And this results into a lot of air pollution. And the air pollution is in different ways. One is the environmental pollution, the outdoor one. And also we have the indoor air pollution, which normally results into damaging health quality in people. We should not forget about the impacts that come from these emissions, and this comes in form of climate change, whereby we release a lot of emissions, including carbon dioxide, and also methane, and also black carbon, which results into global warming. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Next slide, please. Is it coming? Yeah.
I'm sure she's working on that. It's like she
Okay,
has
she's working on it. All right,
yeah,
perfect. So we can look at the global cooking energy crisis. So as we are talking about cooking, how does it look globally? And this shows you that at least around the globe, 2.1 billion people still rely on polluting stoves using solid fuels.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson, please. Sorry to interrupt you. Your camera is off. Please, can you put it on?
The camera is off?
Yeah, we can't actually see.
I see that I'm on.
Really?
Can I try to... Okay. Do you see me now?
I guess it's from the one he's using to project his video. The other one is for audio. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
One of his cameras.
Yes, you just browse through. I think I logged in twice after my laptop refused to.
All right, no problem. I think it's clear now.
Yeah.
It's okay now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so we are looking at globally 2.1 people are still relying on solid fuels. And also the statistics show that if we do not do something about it, 1.8 billion people will still lack clean cooking access. That is, if no action is taken. And this is a study that was done by UNDP this year. And we look at Sub-Saharan Africa, looking at about 1 billion people still lacking clean cooking. We are looking at 1 billion people still lacking clean cooking technologies, whereby 83% of the population in Sub-Saharan Africa still relies on traditional biomass fuels that we have already looked at. In sub-Saharan Africa, 29 countries have access rates below 20%, and the number of people without clean cooking rose to 960 million in 2023. So you can see that we still have a lot to do, looking at how many countries we have in Africa, but looking at only 29 countries that have access rates below 20%, including Uganda, which is still using 89% biomass, including wood and charcoal, and only 15%, between 10 to 15% have access to clean cooking. So that's quite a challenge. And, all this goes back to how we spoil our environment. Let me have the next slide, please. Yes. So when we look at the global context of environmental impact, especially looking at traditional fuels being the key drivers of deforestation, air pollution, and climate change, we look at globally looking at 10 million hectares of forest being lost annually due to firewood demand. And as we cook with firewood, we emit black carbon, which is commonly known as soot. And this is 900 times more climate warming than carbon dioxide over 20 years. This is a study that was conducted by Clarity, an organization that designs black carbon measurement equipment. And as you know, black carbon, it reflects or it absorbs a lot of heat, which is it's a short-lived climate pollutant, but it absorbs the heat more than any other pollutant. So it is a big challenge, and I believe most of you have experienced black carbon in your kitchens. That's the soot, the black soot that you normally see, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we have when we are using these biomass fuels, using inefficient cooking technologies. And black carbon is responsible for up to 25% of global warming. That's quite a big challenge. And in sub-Saharan Africa, if we achieved universal clean cooking access, we could save up to 1.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. And that is globally, but in Africa alone, we contribute about 900 million tons, or we could save 900 million tons of black carbon in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is equivalent to 326 million passenger cars, more than all the cars in the United States and the European Union combined. What does this mean? It means that if we, for example, achieved universal clean cooking access in Africa alone, we could actually be able to remove about 326 million passenger cars. In Africa alone, it would be about 195 million cars, taking them off-road. And we could do this if we achieved universal clean cooking access, at least by 2030. Let's look at the next slide. Yes, so in Uganda alone, in the past century, that's 100 million years in the past, we lost about 41.6% of forest cover. And right now, we remain with about 9.1 million hectares of forest. And every year, we lose up to approximately 120,000 hectares. And this is all linked to fuel. So losing about 120,000 hectares, it is equivalent to 170,000 football pitches. That's how big the challenge is. Imagine losing that every year. So we have a lot to do. We look at the next slide. So we can't forget that beyond the environment, consequences or impacts. We also have health and socio-economic burdens, and these are normally felt by women and children because, as we know, in Africa and in Uganda, women are the ones that normally cook, but also children are involved in a way that sometimes when a woman is cooking, the child or the children are surrounding her. You find some having a very young baby on the back as they are cooking. But also, for example, in Uganda, children between 5 years, as young as 5 years to about 18 and above, they are the ones that normally collect firewood. So women and children are the most affected, and globally 8.1 premature deaths result from household air pollution. And this was a study that was conducted by Health Effects Institute in 2024. And we have also seen that at least 500,000 children die under 5 years from household air pollution linked diseases. And that was at least in 2021. And in sub-Saharan Africa, we see about 294,000 deaths. In East Africa alone, in 2021, those deaths were reported and they were linked to air pollution. And we can't forget that when all this is happening, it results in two health and economic losses because these people have to seek for medical care, and also they spend a lot on buying fuels. For example, buying a sack of charcoal in Uganda, which is consumed, for example, in a month, it costs about 80,000. And I think that's over $25. So that's quite a lot. And we've also seen that at least in Uganda, you find that at least 20% of the income is spent on buying fuels for cooking. And all this amounts to a total loss of about $791 billion annually in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa alone. And I have already explained in Uganda, we have at least women spending up to 40 hours per week collecting fuel and fuel for cooking. And of course, time, poverty, limits education, and income opportunities, perpetuating gender inequality. So the time that these people should have used to do creative work, developmental work, it is spent in cooking, which makes it even worse. Let's go to the next slide. So how do we solve this? How do we overcome environmental degradation using sustainable cooking solutions? So we have seen interventions where we have introduced improved cook stoves, and most of these, at least for people that have adopted clean cooking technologies, especially the improved biomass cook stoves, at least reports have shown that at least the household can save between 40 to 60% of fuel savings, and also reduce indoor pollution by up to 90%. And also, we have seen that most of the improvements happening in sub-Saharan Africa have resulted into 30%, at least 30% improvement have come from introducing improved cook stoves. And LPG globally, 70% of the people that have transitioned to clean cooking have come from LPG. So LPG is still one of the most important clean cooking technologies globally. And at least 70% of the people that have transitioned have come through adoption of LPG. In Uganda, it is still quite a big challenge looking at issues like affordability, upfront costs, and it still remains between 1% or even below. And that was a study that was done by MEX in 2022. but the adoption is now increasing with government intervention. And in Uganda, by 2023, 7,000 domestic biogas digesters were reported to be, were reported to be operational. But the uptake is still slow, and there is a project called the Uganda Biogas and Electric Cooking Project that is funded by African Development Bank, which is about 8.79 million grant, was provided by to the Ministry of Energy to at least introduce biogas plants in institutions like prisons, hospitals, schools, to at least utilize biogas as the primary source of cooking, primary energy for cooking. So let's move forward. Yeah, so we also have to look at solar cooking. It has been reported that at least with solar cooking, we can save between 2 to 2.4 tons of carbon dioxide annually per stove. And this is equivalent to taking at least one car off the road. So that means at least if one household at least adopted solar cooking, we could at least, it is equivalent to at least removing like one polluting car off the road annually. So that's how important solar cooking can be. And Uganda aims to reach at least 150,000 refugee and host communities by 2030 through solar electric cooking. There's a project that is happening. As you know, Uganda hosts over 1 million refugees. It's one of the biggest hosting countries in the whole world that hosts refugees. And we've realized that using solar technologies can be one of those ways that we can at least reduce their reliance on polluting biomass fuels. The picture that you see is a picture of one of the best solar cookers. It's like a combination of induction and solar. That battery can cook, I think, for over even maybe 72 hours, relying on that battery that has been charged using solar panels. It also has a combination of a source for plugging the phone, for charging, and also light. I think you can search about Ecoca. It's one of those transformational technologies that is designed in Uganda. And we've seen that the government is also pushing for electric cooking, because at least with electric cooking, we know that we can reach zero emissions. It is highly efficient, it is very fast. And Uganda at least targets to reach 18% adoption by 2030. And also the new project by African Development Bank will be able to provide at least 77,000 affordable devices. We move on to the next slide. Yes, so we cannot address all these without addressing the barriers. And one of the key challenges includes the upfront costs and limited financing. We've seen that most people who claim not to have switched to adoption is not because they do not know. Some people are aware, although we shouldn't forget that some people are not aware of the available clean cooking technologies on the market. But those that are aware, they also have reported high upfront costs as something that limits them. But also we've seen that clean cooking still lacks funding or financing, because there's a lot that needs to be done, from the technology itself to raising awareness to production to reaching the last mile user. All these can limit adoption. We've also looked at cultural preference for traditional cooking tastes and methods. Working with UNAC has given me an opportunity to see what people, the attitude they have towards these technologies. We've had people claiming that food from, for example, firewood tastes better than food from, for example, gas, food from electric pressure cookers. But we have given them a challenge where we sometimes cook food using electric pressure cooker, using LPG, and using other sources, and then give it to them to test. And you ask them to tell or guess the technology that was used, but no one will ever get it right. So it ends up becoming a mindset challenge. And as you can see in the picture there is these ladies are mingling what we call karo. It's a combination of millet flour and cassava, normally mixed 1 to 2, one being a millet and no, I think I've gotten it the other way around. I think it's normally like 2 to 1, with 2 being millet flour and 1 being cassava. That's a very delicious delicacy. When you're in Uganda, you should try it. We have also looked at technological durability and lack of local services. Some people think that when you purchase any improved cook stove or technology, it might not last. But also, for example, we've seen concerns about electric pressure cookers. When they break down, what do you do? But we have, for example, in Uganda, there is a project that at least is trying to address that, whereby the technicians are being trained to offer those after-sales services. And we also have seen weak enforcement and market development. Weak policy enforcement, this is mainly about standards, whereby substandard technologies still make it to the market, and also having weak market development, because as you know, there's a lot that is needed, especially funds, doing research to make sure that all the challenges are addressed and well researched and backed with evidence. Let's go to the next slide. Yes, so we have looked at ways how all these can be solved, and this can be done through teaching the communities on the health benefits that come with clean cooking technologies, but also the economic benefits that come with that technologies. For example, looking at electric pressure cooker, which can cut up to 70% of costs on fuel. But also we've looked at accessible financing, pay-as-you-go microloans, subsidies in Uganda. We have companies that have already tried to come up with innovative ideas on how people can afford. We've seen people purchasing pressure cookers by paying like maybe 500 shillings. 500 shillings, I don't even know how I can convert that, but it's something that can buy maybe about 2 sweets. Yeah, to pay for pressure cookers or even gas. This technology you see, that's a pressure cooker with a meter, and someone can pay little money and it will help you cook. You can pay 500 Ugandan shillings or maybe $1, and that dollar can help you cook for maybe like 3 days. And when it goes off, when it's like a meter for electricity, when your money is used up, then it switches off. The same applies to the gas. As you can see in the picture there, it also has a meter. So those are some of the innovative ways that people can use to help the communities afford these technologies. Then the communities have to be involved, and we need to also strengthen local manufacturing and distribution. We move to the next slide. Yes, so in Uganda, as I give you just brief overview, currently we are at between 10 to 15% clean cooking accent, and the government at least hopes to reduce reliance on biomass for cooking from 88%, which is about 88 or 90, between 88 to 90%, to at least 50% by 2040. And we also hope to see the transition from at least 1% access of LPG to at least 8% by 2030. And also our national clean cooking target looks at least achieving 18% national e-cooking adoption by 2030 at least. from at least less than 1% penetration for electricity as a primary cooking fuel. And at least by 2040, we hope that at least 50% of Ugandans would be cooking with electricity coming from both the main grid and the off-grid, which is solar. And we move to the next slide. Yes, we have quite amazing projects that are happening at the moment. For example, we have a project that is implemented by ICLEI Africa, and this is called Enactus project. Maybe you could search more about it. And this Enactus project at least is looking at least giving up to 6,000 households in informal settlements in Uganda access to clean cooking technologies, and it's already ongoing. And the one called the Uganda Biogas and Electric Cooking Project, which is the grant of up to 8.7 million by African Development Bank to increase institutional biogas and also provide 7,000 affordable e-cooking devices. The Ministry of Energy is also implementing the Behavior Change Communication Program, which is implemented by National Renewable Energy Platform. And this helps to reach the last mile user, promoting electric cooking, and also training technicians to fix these e-cooking appliances. And also UNAC is also implementing a project that will at least raise awareness across different regions across the country. And this is also co-implemented by German international corporation known as GIZ. We move to the next slide. Yes, so as we finalize what needs to be done, I know I've used up most of my time, but let's go through it quickly. We need a comprehensive national strategy with clear targets and cross-sector collaboration. In Uganda, we have different sectors that can help us achieve this. We have the Ministry of Energy, which helps to set targets for the country on access. But also you have, for example, Ministry of Environment, Water and Environment, which could help us solve the issue of degradation, maybe through policies that can also reduce biomass reliance and also promoting activities like tree planting. Then also we have to increase financing. According to the study done by Ariel Advisory, at least $4 billion is needed annually for sub-Saharan African countries to access clean cooking by 2030. And also, of course, we need to strengthen local supply chains, support local manufacturing and repair services, like I've already mentioned, and also implement culturally sensitive behavior change communication on health and economic benefits, and also support research and development and monitoring to improve affordability and durability of these technologies. Next slide. Yes, and we need to bring different stakeholders together to legislate, allocate resources, enforce policies. That's for policymakers, and then also increase funding to support scalable technologies and also have innovative financing. And of course, research is still needed to provide evidence and evaluate impacts of these clean cooking projects. And the private sector has to keep working to innovate, come up with innovative ways to help the communities to access clean cooking. And the community leaders are very key. In Uganda, we have already done that. Everywhere we go, as we promote, we engage the community leaders, also the cultural leaders, the kingdoms can play a big role. And also the individuals themselves. Once you've learned about this, you might even find that some of us who are promoting don't even depend on clean cooking technologies as our primary energy source. So we also have to take action. I think the next slide as I conclude. Yes, so the solutions exist and the urgent corrective action is needed. Clean cooking is critical for environmental conservation, health, and sustainable development, and that's one happy gentleman who had seen an electric pressure cooker for the first time, and also had a chance to cook a local meal called karo, or millet mixed with cassava. And I want to thank you for listening, and I hope that we shall answer the questions, or either now or maybe in the next session. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. That was quite a very interesting, well-detailed presentation. I actually learned a lot from the perspective of Uganda. Thank you once again. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I don't know. Before we go to Mr. Nelson, Charity Abang. Charity, please, are you online? Okay, I can't see from my screen if she's still online.
She's online. She's on.
Okay. Charity, please, can you go ahead with your presentation? Barrister Owen, please.
I'm doing
Her
that.
slide. Thank you.
This is the slide we were on before she left the call. Please, can you confirm, Charity?
Charity, please, are you with us? Okay.
Yes, please. Am I audible?
Very audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. So next we're to look at scalability and practical application. And under this, we have affordability, where we need to explore cost-effective solutions for diverse populations. So while preparing for this, I was opportune to look at the International Energy Agency 2022 report. And from there, I saw that in Africa, 4 out of 5 individuals still lack access to clean cooking solutions, and affordability remains a major challenge, especially with financial support needed for most households to cover upfront stove costs, just like the last speaker had mentioned, and in some cases, ongoing fuel costs.
I'm sorry, Charity, please, I have to interrupt you. Can you put on your camera, please?
Okay.
That's okay with you. Thank you.
All right. Am I visible now, please?
Yes, you are, but we can't actually see your face.
Can you see me now, please?
Please, can any other person confirm that they can see Charity? Because from my end, I'm just seeing event background.
Okay.
Better.
Yes, I
Thank you.
think the
Better now.
camera is locked. Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we have to look at is accessibility. It is very important that we ensure access to both rural and urban areas in terms of making financial incentives, which are vital policy tools for facilitating access to clean cooking technologies. And I would like to use this moment to appreciate what the African Development Bank Group is doing in terms of ensuring universal access to clean cooking through their various initiatives, such as the Spark Plus Africa Fund, which has been able to raise about 64 million US dollars to deliver clean cooking technologies and reduce carbon emission. Also look at government, private sector involvement, the role of policy and investment in many African countries. The policies are there, but what is actually lacking is implementation of this policy. So if government and private sector can come together to agree that we need to adopt clean cooking technologies for our nation, we need people to begin to utilize the new technologies that are available to improve life, to ensure that people eat healthy food and they live healthy life, then we would be able to achieve our targets. Next slide, please. So we have here challenges and opportunities in adoption. The first one here, we have costs. So like we said, many communities, even individuals, are unable to purchase these new technologies. So what can we do for them? What can policymakers do is by ensuring that there are incentives to encourage people to adopt these new methods, to adopt these new technologies, so that no one is left behind. And then there is cultural acceptance. I don't know if this is also common where you are. We have people mostly, even not just in the rural areas, but even the urban communities still adhering to traditional cooking practices. You would have maybe some women tell you that, excuse me, they prefer meals cooked with firewood because it gives the meal a different taste. Can you confirm that you've actually come across things like that? Let me be sure that it is not just in my own vicinity. So from where you are, I'm sure you still have women, maybe people when they have vacation, they still prefer to use the traditional firewood to cook their food because they believe that it gives the food a very special taste, which if you use the gas cooker, you cannot get that. So if we have people who still hold on to such beliefs, such tradition, it is going to be very difficult for them to adopt modern technologies. And also, under barriers, we have lack of awareness. So in the presence of all of this information flying around about sustainable cooking or clean cooking technologies or methods, there are still hard to reach communities, people who are not aware of the current trend, people who are not aware of the modern technology. And this is where we need a lot of public health practitioners like myself who would do the sensitization, who would go into communities to create more awareness about what is obtainable in this present time so that more people can be aware and adopt the current sustainable cooking methods. Strategies to overcome challenges. We have talked about policy incentives. The policies are there. We need to be able to make them functionable, implement them, and ensure that what is needed to motivate people to adopt this technology is actually in place. Education subsidies, we need more education. More people should be educated on how these things work. And then we also have success stories. The reality is that even though this technology is still far from being achieved in Africa, progress has been made across Asia and Latin America. The number of people globally without clean cooking fell from 3 billion in 2010 to 2.3 billion in 2022. Now, while addressing the issue is complex, there are success stories in India, in China and Indonesia, where those without access have reduced their population last decade. Now, these efforts were achieved by relying on providing free stoves and subsidized canisters. So imagine if Africa adopt these strategies that have proven to be effective in countries like China and India and the likes. Next slide. We have here conclusion and call to action. I decided to borrow from Dr. Fateh Birol, the Executive Director of International Energy Agency. She said in a speech that reaching universal access to clean cooking is not a question of technology, and the policy solutions are known, like we've heard so far, but implementation capacity and funding is lacking. It is also inexcusable in this very year that people still lack these fundamental services, and the community of parties, conference of parties rather, which will come up in 2030 as it approaches. It is an opportunity to rethink and prioritize clean cooking by rapidly scaling up implementation and mobilizing the necessary financial resources that will help reach our shared targets. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Charity, for that wonderful presentation. The insights of that of Nigeria also you had shared, and that was very engaging and interesting. Thanks so very much. Please, we will spend a few minutes now to take a poll question. Engineer Anthony, please, you can launch the poll question. Thank you. Okay, please, you just spare a few minutes of your time to do this for us. It's not going to take long. 5 minutes and we are done with it. Please, thank you. Okay. Please join in for the poll question, please. Okay, we have a few minutes to go. Please. Thank you. Okay, this is going on so well. Thank you. Okay, in the next 1 minute, we'll be ending the poll question. So please, if you haven't joined in, please do that for us. Thank you. Okay, so from the poll here, if it's been a great response, what type of cooking fuel is mostly or is most commonly used in your household? We've got 25% firewood, 25% LPG, 25% electric cookers, and 25% improved cook stove. And also, were you aware that traditional cooking contribute to environmental degradation before this webinar? 100% positive. Okay, so thank you everybody for doing that with us. The poll session has ended, and I think we have some messages on the chat box. We'll attend to it as we progress because time, it's not really on our side again. So we'll go directly to the panel session, and please, the panelists, I'll plead you put on your cameras, please, at this point. Thank you. Please, Mr. Nelson, put on your camera. Charity, please. Monique, are you online? Let's get this done very quickly.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Thank you for joining in.
Okay. So
Can we all put on our cameras, please? So the audience can see us answering our questions, please.
sorry. Oh yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Okay, so while we are waiting for Mr. Monique and Charity to put on their own cameras, I will direct the first question to you, Mr. Nelson. And it's just going to be, I'm sorry, 1 second, please.
Please, am I visible?
Yes, Charity, you are very visible. Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Nelson, because from your explanation, from your presentation, you've elaborated so very much on the effects of harvesting of these firewood and charcoal to be used in cooking generally. So my question would be, how does this traditional cooking falls, that's the firewood and the charcoal, how do they contribute to deforestation and environmental degradation generally in Africa?
Thank you so much. I think my presentation actually covered most of this, but to take you through, to make it clear for you and for the listeners, is to know that when we are talking about cooking, and in Africa, looking at majority, 83% of people in sub-Saharan Africa using firewood and charcoal to cook. And also looking at, for example, in Uganda, I think 53% relies on firewood, and then the rest about maybe 30 something, they depend on charcoal for cooking. So this is, sorry, the majority actually depends on it's vice versa, charcoal, and then like about 30 something depend on firewood, which is quite a big challenge because we have already seen studies showing us that annually we lose about 10 million hectares globally of forest annually due to firewood demand. And we have also seen that at least as this is happening, we are getting black carbon. Black carbon is the soot that normally comes from cooking, that black soot that you normally see, which is the most dangerous air pollutant because for it absorbs heat more than actually any other pollutant, and it contributes up to 25% of global warming. So, and also if we look at the Ugandan context, we have seen that in the last 100 years, we've lost about 41.6% forest cover, and we remain with only 9.1 million hectares. To put it clear for you, we lose about 120,000 hectares of forests in Uganda every year, which is equivalent to around 170,000 football pitches. That's how bad it is. I hope this answers the question. If not, I could still clarify on a few things if there are any other, if there is a need to clarify more.
No, you have done justice to the question. The figures you quoted, though, I didn't really get it very well, but that was glaring enough, and it has shown the extent at which the deforestation, cutting down of those trees to be used for firewood and in cooking, much effect it caused to our ecosystem, and also on the large the biodiversity as well. So with that, we'll look at the second question, and that will be directed to Charity Abang. What are the broader environmental impact of this traditional cooking? That's including the air pollution, the land degradation, the biodiversity loss.
Okay.
Charity,
Please
please, are
take
you
your
with us?
question again. Yes, I'm with you. Please take your question again.
What are the broader environmental impact of this traditional cooking? That's including the air pollution, the land degradation, the biodiversity loss, and all of that, please.
Okay, I think that the question already answers itself. The broader consequences has a very far-reaching environmental impact. In the case of air pollution, we've seen that from burning biomass fuel like wood, charcoal, and dung, harmful pollutants including carbon monoxide, particulate matter, and black carbon are being released into the air. And this also contributes to lowering the indoor and outdoor air quality, which further leads to some respiratory diseases, like we mentioned, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. There is the issue of lung cancer, and there is also the acute respiratory infection and other diseases. When it comes to land degradation, the practice of continuous harvesting of wood depletes soil nutrients, especially in areas, like I mentioned before, where you have more people poaching that is going into the forest to cut down trees, and there are no efforts to replace those trees. So that can decrease the soil nutrients and also the land fertility. Now, in regions where trees are removed faster than they can regenerate, it can also lead to desertification. Also, talking about biodiversity loss, wood fuel harvesting destroys natural habitats. It threatens wildlife population. Before now, you could see some animals that were that lived in our forest, but because of these human activities of cutting down trees, we no longer have such species because they are now extinct. We have put them at risk, and they no longer find our ecosystem habitable, so they flee from it. Many species rely on forests for shelter and food, and their decline disrupts the ecosystem. On a larger scale, we can also look at the issue of climate change. Traditional cooking contributes significantly to greenhouse gases, such as black carbon, which causes pollution to the climate and also has an effect on global warming. So the health risks are numerous, like we've mentioned, and the people who suffer more are women and children, because they are mostly the ones who engage in this method of cooking. I hope I've been able
Thank
to
you.
answer that.
Yes, thank you, Charity. That was very insightful. You made mention of women and children being the ones who are affected most, because by I think WHO, we have nearly approximately 3.2 billion premature deaths annually, and the majority of this death are being affected by women and children. And that leads me to the next question. If this, we have seen the challenges, the problem attached to traditional cooking, and to the best of my knowledge, I do believe that these clean cooking solutions exist. And what is the barrier? What are the challenges that are stopping us from adopting these clean cooking solutions so as to ease off all this problem that is attached to traditional cooking methods? What are the barriers? What's stopping us? And Charity, if you don't mind, you can take that question for us, please.
Okay, I believe that we have already addressed some of the barriers that makes it impossible for communities or households to adopt, excuse me, clean cooking. One of it is affordability. The issue of affordability still remains a challenge where many households struggle with upfront cost of clean cooking technologies like the LPG, ethanol, improved cook stove, and the likes. So that is one major hurdle that we need to overcome. And then there's limited awareness and cultural preferences, which I earlier mentioned, even though we may not have done enough awareness, but there are still people who are aware and still prefer to stick to the traditional method. So cultural preferences plays a major role, a major barrier in enhancing adoption of clean technology. And then there's also the issue of infrastructure and supply chain issues. Like in some rural areas, access to clean fuel like LPG and ethanol is limited due to poor distribution networks and inadequate infrastructure. So these things are lacking. These infrastructures are lacking. The services may be there, but how does it get to the final consumer? We have not been able to solve that challenge. And until we do that, many households will still be excluded from this technology. There is also the issue of policy and regulatory gaps. Many countries, even though some have, some still lack strong policies to promote clean cooking. And for those that have, implementation is a major barrier. So when we begin to prioritize clean cooking, if our government work with private institutions and they're able to prioritize clean cooking, I believe that we are able to overcome these barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity. That was elaborate enough. And in the whole of this, I haven't heard anything about electric cooking, but I do believe that is also is also a solution, part of clean cooking solutions. Though in the context of Nigeria, we have band A, band B, band C, and even the bandless band. It's also a problem having this clean cooking solution like the electric pressure cooker in your house, but to be able to use that to cook is also a problem because sometimes the light is not even there, and sometimes you are in band A and you want to be using electric pressure cooker to cook. It's actually cheap. It's cheap compared to having to use your LPG. We actually run a test on that, and it's cheaper. I don't know. You could check out our website to see that. So that leads me to the next question, and it could be because of all those challenges, what type of support or partnership is needed to scale these clean cooking technologies across the African continent as a whole. And Mr. Monique Adams, please, you wouldn't mind taking that for us.
Hello, can you take that question again?
What type of support or partnerships is actually needed to scale the clean cooking solutions across the African continent as a whole? Thank you.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. But then I think the first thing we need to do, so there are different levels of support. There is the part where government has a responsibility. There is a part where institutions and corporations have responsibilities to physical presence in difficulties in terms of accessing clean cooking options. Then we have the role where people like you and I actually also play in the big picture. That is, we both those who you and I include those who have no access to the clean cooking solutions at this point, and also some of us who actually do. And this is what I mean, because there is this large disconnect between the message and the action. So a lot of times we go into streets, we go into markets, we speak to market women and all that. They know that gas is better for them because it cooks their food faster. It's cheaper than kerosene is so expensive, especially in the local context of Nigeria. And as compared to like even firewood, for example. So sorry, just hold on. Give me a minute. Sorry for that. I am actually on the, I'm walking. So yes, there is, these people, it's not like there is a huge lack of understanding as to the effect of some of these things. They cook with wood, they see those experiences, their lived experiences. Sometimes they just need that context to be provided for them to understand that, oh, this thing that eye pain that you've been having, it is because you've been using wood. This breathing issues that you've been having is because you've been using this cooking option, basically localizing the message. So there's a side of localizing the message. That's one huge way to support locally. There is also subsidies in terms of what government can do. So we can subsidize, government can and should actually subsidize a lot of these things because they are quite expensive to actually access, especially in the immediate. Long term, they are the most affordable forms of things to use, things like LPG, like cooking gas and all that. So, but then in the short term, you need to buy a cooker, you need to buy a cylinder. These things are really, really expensive as opposed to just get wood and then get two or three stones and just put your pot on it and then you are good to go. But then the long-term effect of that is actually more expensive when you look at it. So we need subsidies, speaking directly. And even for corporations, when they are designing interventions, they should design interventions that really do something and solve real problems for like the community in which they operate in. So instead of just going into a community and just telling them about some of these problems, provide them with some of these tools and some of the things that they actually need. Just give it out to some of these people, support them to be able to afford some of these things. And that is where government subsidy comes in. That is where communication comes in. How we talk to people lets them like understand that this thing is essential because it's actually a matter of life and death. It's not just about cooking. It's not just about boiling something, but it is actually a very dire issue. So yes, just to try to summarize, 3 forms of support. There is support from government where we need a lot of subsidies and intentionality from government to actually make sure that these things are readily available in markets and at an affordable rate, especially, so we can actually even have targeted subsidies, especially in communities that need them. You shouldn't go to highbrow areas and subsidize things. Those funding that we would rather use to subsidize those things in highbrow areas, we just go to more rural areas where we know that the income levels are low and focus all the energy in those communities, right? Then for corporations, they need to be more responsible through their CSR projects. They should invest more in some of these solutions. They can fund research too, for example, into what works best because different things work best for different communities. You might donate cooking gas to a community now and they don't have, the nearest gas plants to them is like 30 kilometers away. Even 10 kilometers away is a very far distance. So that is like you have to bring in the cost of transportation and you are introducing series of new problems to them. And in the long run, they would have abandoned those cooking gases. So it is not enough to provide these things. And that is why I said intentionality matters. Targeted subsidies, intentional CSRs that serve the community purposefully. If it's LPG that serves the community, are there supporting infrastructures that will enable that to succeed? If it's solar cooking, are there supporting infrastructures that will enable that to succeed? If it's smokeless ovens and grills and all that, are there supporting infrastructures? Or can you actually provide some of those supporting infrastructures to ensure that you close the loop basically and try to ensure that there is no spillage in terms of abandoned use of some of those things that you provide. And on our end, we speak big English a lot of times, but when it comes to communicating this thing to those who need it the most, we should try as much as possible to simplify it and make it as practical to those in our communities and those around us, so that if they even have the information, when local people go for CDA meetings and all that, they are able to communicate with leadership that, oh, this is a problem that we are having. This number of people are going through this. And that way, once the local representatives see, because we need pressure from the grassroots to ensure that some of these policies in the top actually happen and actually work out. So once they know, and they know that this is a serious issue, and they know that these are things that can be discussed at their local government level, then the local government understands that this is a big problem for my people. This is what they are tilting towards. They want us to solve this kind of problems. Then there is more incentive for government to actually act, because government will not act until something moves them to act. So yeah, just to keep it at that. So yeah.
Thank you, Monique. That was very elaborate. The government, the private sector, even the grassroots, that's including me and you, we have our part to play, a role to play in order to get this done. That was very insightful. Thank you. So my next question will be, what's to Mr. Nelson, what's your vision for a sustainable, clean cooking Africa in the next 5 to 10 years?
Thank you so much. I think what I envision in the next 5 to 10 years is an Africa where every household, rural or urban, has access to affordable, clean, and efficient cooking solutions. We've seen actually communities, sometimes we tend to think that they are poor, but for example, in Uganda, we worked on a project where we were promoting clean cooking in informal settlements. And these are some of the settlements that we used to think that they are poor, they cannot afford this. But we realized that actually they were benefiting from what we call stacking. Stacking is where a combination of different technologies is combined. For example, LPG, briquette stove, and electric pressure cooker. These are households that we used to think that they are poor, they cannot afford, but with the introduction of subsidies, with the introduction of, for example, innovative ways like pay as you go, we've realized that also these people can afford. So, and also another thing, we've concentrated a lot on households and forgetting businesses. We need to see small scale businesses, even bigger businesses taking on improved technologies. And we've also seen this in, for example, businesses like bakeries, which highly depend on firewood, and big factories. So I envision a future where most businesses, households, whether in rural or urban, can rely on clean, have access to affordable, clean, and efficient cooking solutions. Also, I would like to see our forests regenerating. If, for example, we push for electric cooking, and because electric cooking, we've tried this with the pressure cookers, for example, in Uganda, we've realized that at least we can cook up to 95% of our local foods in electric pressure cookers. So we need to see our forests taking a break and having cleaner air. And also women and children, we need to see that at least women are no longer, suffering from things that are preventable, like walking 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers to collect firewood, or spending 40 hours on collecting firewood and cooking. We need to see all this change. And of course, I would like to see also that clean cooking can also become a very big pillar of climate action, and also helping us to create green jobs, seeing the youth participating in a whole chain of clean cooking, from production, from repairing, from distributing, promotion, and all that. I believe we could have a very bright future with clean cooking in Africa. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Because time is really against us, we have just barely a few minutes to go. we are going to take rounds on this particular question. What is that one message you would send across or tell the stakeholders involved in ensuring that this adoption gets to the grassroots in just 3 seconds? Okay, let's increase it to 5 seconds, please. What is that one message you will tell them?
For me,
yeah, everybody, we will start with you.
Please, thank you. For me, clean cooking is climate action. It's empowering homes, it's empowering communities, and we need to do everything possible to promote these technologies. We need to make sure that clean cooking is given a priority internationally and locally. We need to see a lot of funds coming into clean cooking. We need to see communities being taught, given education. We need to see the young generations, the young people, the youth being involved. And I believe that with all this, it can also be a key thing to help us conserve our environment, especially reducing environmental degradation where our forests are normally lost because of fuel. So clean cooking is climate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Charity Abang, please.
Okay. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so what I would say is that lack of resources is not an excuse. We have everything we need to ensure that every household, every community, every nation has universal access to clean cooking. And the reality is that for as long as poverty, as long as hunger and disease persist, the poorest regions will remain vulnerable to humanitarian disasters, to social injustice, and political instability. So let us prioritize what would thoroughly benefit the people to live healthy lives. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charity Abang. Ms. Monique, please.
Okay, so for me, I would say we shouldn't treat clean cooking like just another random problem, but it is a climate justice, it is a health problem, and it is a gender equality problem. And so yes, these are things we seriously need to consider, because if we had a specific type of people who will get affected the most by some of these clean cooking options, this would have been a more front burner issues, because especially here in Africa, we have more men, for example, holding power. So those in power should be considerate to understand that just because they can't connect to a particular reality does not mean it is not a problem. So they should go down to the grassroots, meet with their people, understand the problem, and try to solve it, because it cuts across. It's not just environmental, it is health, and it is disenfranchising a particular sector of the community. So yes, that's my message to them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Monique. Get down to the grassroots, and starting from the grassroots, get it done up to the highest level. Thank you, everybody, for finding time to do this with us. Thank you, especially to Mr. Nel, who has found time to do this twice with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Nelson. And thank you, Charity Abang. I think you got on call at the very last minute. Thank you for not looking at the time at which we reached out to you. You still found time to do this with us. Thank you so very much. And Mr. Monique, thank you as well. We truly do appreciate each and every one of your presence. Thank you. So at this point, I will call in Barrister Owen, please.
Thank you very much, Kentinvan, for the beautiful moderation of the panel session as well as the presentation. Thank you to our panelists and presenters for joining in and sharing your insights with your rich presentation slides and lots of information that was being exchanged during the course of this panel session and presentation. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Nelson, Charity, and Moni. On behalf of Terra Energy, we really appreciate you. So we move to the opportunities in the clean cooking industry. As part of our activities for the webinar, we also share opportunities in the clean cooking industry aside creating awareness. So for this opportunity called Modern Cooking Facility for Africa, the deadline is December 31st, 2025, and it's sponsored by UNITA. It is a funding and partnership opportunity, and it applies to Niger and Nigeria. You can refer to the link on the screen for more information and details. We also have the West Africa Clean Cooking Fund, with the deadline still at 31st December 2025. It is funded by Worthington Companies Foundation. It is a funding opportunity and it applies to all countries in West Africa. So you can also refer to the link on the screen for more information or clarification. Finally, we have guarantees for renewable energy investments, still with the deadline at 31st December 2025, from Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management. It is a funding opportunity also, and it applies to ODA funding eligible countries. And we hope that those that have joined us on this call that have been looking for opportunities in the clean cooking industry, you can refer to this link or these organizations to get better information. Next slide, please. So for our upcoming activities, Tobera Energy Limited is the clean energy company that has presence in Sierra Leone and of course also in Nigeria. And we offer a wide range of services from energy planning and audits. We also do mini grids design, energy system design and development. We offer clean cooking solutions. We do energy advisory and energy advocacy and education, which is an offshoot of this webinar. We have the 51st Past Clean Cooking webinar, where we create awareness around the benefits of cooking with clean cooking solutions. We look at the policy environment. We have looked at the financing and investment. We've looked at the health, the economic, and today we looked at the environmental impact, the impacts that sustainable clean cook solutions can have in order to address environmental degradation. And just to also mention that we have been commissioned by MEX to carry out 3 projects. The first one was the e-cookbook, where we dispel the myth that electric cookers cannot be used to cook native food or cannot be used to make native recipes, because the challenge of cultural preference is always that, oh, you can't cook native food with electric cookers or with clean cooking solutions, that it tastes better with the firewood. So the e-cookbook can be found on the MEX website. Last year, 2024, we were also commissioned by MEX to carry out the market readiness reports for the mass scale up of electric cooking for Sierra Leone and for Nigeria as well, though the work is yet to be published, but you could look out on the MEX website when it's published. We also offer services around productive use of renewable energy and finally waste to energy. So as an offshoot of our energy and energy education and advocacy, we have this conference we hold annually, the Africa International Conference on Clean Energy and Energy Storage, which we are currently on the 3rd edition. Please, can you go back to the previous slide? Thank you. So for this year, we'll be having the ICES conference at University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria, and we are calling for research papers in different areas such as clean mobility, clean cooking, waste to energy, energy efficiency and smart systems, energy transition, finance, and everything renewable energy. You can check on the ices.com website. The flyer and the link is in the chat box So you can follow the link and you can also check the flyer for more information. We're also calling for exhibitions. If you have or know anybody that produces clean cooking technologies or solutions like maybe solar stove or an electric cooker or any innovation around clean cooking that you would want to showcase, you can also visit the access.com website for more information on the exhibition packages. We are open to people signaling interest to serve as panelists and keynote speakers as well. So all the information that you need is on the Access website as well. So we have the next episode. We're about concluding the 8th episode of the 54 Sparks webinar, and we look forward to having each and every one of us at the next episode, the 9th episode, same time, 12 p.m. West African time to 2 p.m. and that will be in June. Then we have another program still part of this 51st Spark webinar. Call it the Cook Clean Advocate. Next slide, please. So the Cook Clean Advocate is basically an initiative that's bettered out of the need to encourage advocates in the clean cooking space, those that have been carrying out one awareness or maybe a program or initiative one way or the other, and we are actually aiming at using this program to train them, expose them to mentorship. After the training, we lead them through on how to engage with policymakers and stakeholders as well. So if you are somebody that has a basic understanding of SDG 7, you're passionate about clean cooking and you're committed to advocating for sustainable clean cooking solutions, you have been attending this webinar for at least 5 episodes. If you are a regular customer for like 5 times now, then you are eligible. Also, if you have the time to be available for trainings and complete the Cooking Advocate training module to be done virtually, of course, and you must commit to carrying out at least one clean cooking awareness in your community. So if you meet all these criteria, about 5 of them listed here, then you know that you should not waste time. You should be part of this program that we have put in place. The link is also in the chat box and the flyer as well. And visit https://bit.ly Cooking Advocate for more information as well. Next slide, please.
Next
So
slide.
this is us saying thank you on behalf of Torah Energy Limited. Thank you for joining in. Thank you to our partners, the Energy Nexus Network Sierra Leone. Thank you, Greenlands International. Thank you, especially Mr. Nelson, for featuring on the 2 episodes of the May edition. We really appreciate your input and your contributions, and we look forward to more of this. Thank you, Smart Women in Environment and Development Organization. Thank you to our panelists and our presenters for sharing such robust information on the topic of discussion for today, which is addressing environmental degradation through sustainable solutions. Thank you, and thank you. We look forward to having you in our next episode.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. At this juncture, would share the curtain for today's episode. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you too.
Oh my God.